get the views of legal analyst, advocate Romeo Nthambeleni now. Thank you very much for your time, Romeo. It's lovely to have you. Judgment's been reserved, but I wanted you to reflect on that package that Canny's just done, in which this concept of the independence of the NPA, which is not a new concept. As you know, it's been one that's blighted the NPA since its inception. What's your take on how that played out in court?
Yeah, look, from the reading of what the judges were asking, they were not impressed with what appears to have been the interference of the NPA by making a statement of indicating that the certificate does not actually apply to the president, and that is the duty of the court. And then they were just reminding the counsel and teasing out the reasons as to why the NPA actually entered the fray, when that is the duty of the court to make a determination as to who that certificate applies to. And you could see, Iman, that the counsel did not have answers except to actually say, to think on his feet, to say that that was the statement that is usually made by the NPA. And it appears that the court is not impressed. It appears that the court feels that the NPA has crossed the Rubicon in terms of actually is independent when we are actually dealing with this matter.
Could this be a point, that haunts this, these proceedings and creates a cloud around them?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you could see that when the court was trying to tease out these reasons were not actually forthcoming. And you must remember that the duty of the NPA is, lies on the Constitution of the Republic, that it must actually prosecute without fear, without favor, and without prejudice. And from the questions that were coming from the bench, it appears that that Rubicon was actually crossed, and that's why the court wanted clear answers as to what was the reason of the NPA actually going to an extent that it doesn't actually apply to the president when it has not been interpreted by the courts. And it's a full bench, Iman, and we'll see how, when all the judges have reasons together, what sort of judgment will they actually give in relation to the NPA and their conduct in these proceedings.
So this is all, Romeo, about putting to bed former President Jacob Zuma's pursuit of President Ramaphosa on this matter. And I want to ask whether the president's team did enough on their part to get the outcome that they're seeking.
You see, without preempting the judgment, you could hear Iman, that this was a very heated arguments for both sides. And and the main issue is that the question that has to be answered is whether the former president has the title to actually prosecute the current sitting president, and that is the answer that the court is ultimately going to give in its judgment after weighing both arguments for both sides, Iman.
It goes back, Romeo, to the concept of the importance of understanding how prosecutions work, and pivots around this concept of the nolli prosequi. The NPA issues this nolli prosequi to confirm that the state won't pursue a charge against a person. And it's only when an aggrieved person has this can they actually go to court. So this is in part where, the weighting of the president's arguments are that the summons issued against him or against the president is unlawful because this nolli prosequi doesn't specifically refer to the president. This languaging and this understanding of this particular very important piece, do you think it's been, well ventilated, especially for the public to understand?
Yeah, I think so, Iman, because what is important here is that whether this certificate that has been issued by the NPA, which is the nolli prosequi, apply to the president. And if we answer the question, we say no, then the argument that has been brought that it applies to him falls away. And then that is why you saw that there was arguments that was being advanced that to say that this threshold has not been passed by the legal representatives of the former president in relation to the president. And then the title to prosecute was only given to the prosecutor being Billy Downer itself. And I think that is what the judgment is ultimately going to clarify once and for all. And that's why you saw that there was sort of an irritation of the courts towards the NPA, saying, why did you actually make a judgment when you were actually not supposed to actually make a judgment as to the merits and the demerits of this matter? You should have allowed the court to actually make its decision and its determination in relation to this particular certificate. So I think that argument has been well traversed in this in this matter.
Advocate Nthambeleni, how do you see this playing out, and what would the what would the consequences on either side be for Downer and for Mon?
Look, there's a challenge in this issue that the challenge that I have with the argument is in relation to the matter which is being currently debated is the separation of the president himself as an executive, as a president himself executing his duties as the president of the country and removing him and putting him as an individual. When he has done this while he was allegedly performing his executive functions of his failure to act when there was a duty on him to actually act. So you cannot actually separate that duty and then say that we want to find him alone as an individual and privately prosecute him from actions that stemmed out of the things that you allege that he ought to have done in his official capacity. So that argument will not find favor in any court of law whatsoever, that you want to separate him and deal with him as an individual. Then that is the first point. And then in relation to the others that you're actually referring to, obviously, those matters are still before court. They are sub judice. The court is still going to make a determination whether there's merit to the argument that is being brought to privately prosecute Mon and also Billy Downer, which the courts, looking at the previous judgment of the Supreme Court of Appeal, which is the authority which we have now, indicated that indeed Billy Downer does have the title to actually prosecute in this matter, Iman.
Advocate Romeo Nthambeleni, thank you very much for helping us make sense of these proceedings in the South Gauteng High Court. We appreciate your time tonight.